I believe in India, the breaking of glass is good luck, but in Germany, it's actually the spilling of water, so thank you, Lara. So, who of you have been to South Africa? Johannesburg, to be specific? Okay, so this story takes place on the 19th of July in Johannesburg, South Africa, as said, and what seemed to be an ordinary day actually turned to be the most magnificent day of my life. So I woke up one morning preparing to go to an interview. So I had taken a break between my work, trying to find myself, and then eventually I got into the job market and I decided, okay, apply, get an interview, go for the interview. And as I'm taking that shower that morning, my sister comes to the bathroom and she says she has this unbearable period pain. I think to myself, okay, take tablets, go back to bed and deal with it. She says, no, she can't cope with this. It is extremely painful. I was like, okay, go to the doctor. A friend of mine had been staying with us at that time, so I asked her to take my sister to the doctor and they took her to the doctor. While I was driving to the interview that was about 37 kilometers away, I get a call from my doctor 20 kilometers on my way. And hysterical, he's a very calm man. But in this moment, he's very hysterical. He's asking me to, Yollanda, how could you do this to me? Why would you bring someone like this? I'm thinking to myself, bring someone like this? He's like, I'm in awe, I'm in disbelief. Can you guys guess, in this moment, what he told me?
Pregnant.
That's right. In this moment, he tells me my sister is pregnant. Like, my sister is pregnant? How could she be pregnant? I stay with the person. He says she's pregnant and she's 8 centimeters dilated. The baby is coming now. I'm thinking to myself, no, there's no baby coming now. This person is not pregnant. He's like, yes, she is. So now at this moment, I'm thinking interview, pregnancy. And then eventually I make a U-turn to make myself to the clinic. So as I'm driving to the clinic, I have all these thoughts going through my head. But first I pick up the call, I pick up my phone, I call the interviewer. I'm like, listen, I'm so sorry, I can't make it to the interview today. I have a family emergency. I'll understand if you guys go with another candidate, but I'm sorry I can't come today. As an African person, you know when the popo hits the fan, you gotta call a friend. And this moment I call my cousin, I'm like, listen dude, your sister's pregnant. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, your sister is pregnant and she's potentially 9 centimeters dilated by now. So are you coming to the clinic? So she says, yeah, she's coming to the clinic. Gets in her car. I get to the clinic 20 minutes later, but while I was driving to the clinic, many thoughts were going through my head. So having mothered my sister while she was 9 years old, I thought to myself, another baby, another burden. I'm gonna have to be a mother again? So I went with very negative energies to the clinic. So when I got to the clinic, my doctor says, you know what, Yollanda, you put me in a very horrible situation. I am a clinic here. I don't have birthing facilities. I really cannot take this burden upon myself because if this baby dies, I don't want the liability that you will leave me with at this clinic. But he's a solutions man. So in this moment, he says there's a hospital about 15 kilometers away. You can drive there. They take new patients. You can be like, tuck, get there. And they'll help you out. So now in this community, call a friend car. We get into my friend's car. My friend is on the passenger seat. Dedicated driver, thank you. And then my sister and my cousin are on the back seat. While we're driving to the hospital, my sister's sitting in the back seat looking at my cousin's hair, who has a really nice weave. So she's like, oh my gosh, your hair is really nice. And in between she goes, then she comes back, she's like, where did you get your hair, by the way? So we are not all processing this whole situation that's happening right now. And while we're driving 5 minutes into the drive, my sister says, oh, Gaino, I think I need to take a dunk. So my cousin, having gone into labor, she knows exactly what's happening. She says, no. You don't have to take a dunk. You can just close your legs. Close your legs. And the closing of the legs is not happening in this moment. So as we are driving, she goes again, oh, and my cousin looks through and she's like, oh my gosh, the head is here. Facing the other side of the window, she's like, oh, the head hearing nothing. In this moment, Shami's like, you're driving too slow. 120 kilometers an hour, we're never gonna make it. Give gas, give gas. So, put on the accelerator. She's like, you are allowed to skip the traffic lights. It's an exception today. Skip the traffic lights, yank the horn, do everything you are allowed today. And then as we're going, she gets another contraction. I don't know if it's a contraction or pushing, but she goes, oh! And my cousin says, oh, the body's out, yo, like the shoulder is even out. So I'm hearing none of this in this moment because I am mega terrified. I keep on driving, accelerator, hooting and everything. And the next thing I hear, plop. The baby lands on a cold leather seat with nothing there. So the baby's been crying for like a couple of minutes, and it took me a while to kind of get the gist of this. So then I ask in the car, is that a crying baby? They're like, yeah, he's been crying for 2 minutes. So my friend who's sitting on the left seat, having worked at a hospital before, takes off her pullover and wraps the baby around the pullover, so now he's feeling a bit warm, a bit comfortable, and he just keeps quiet. Now we're driving, and then a sign of hope comes. I see a police car. Police car, accelerate. I am hooting, I am yanking everything, I am waving, and then they eventually stop and think to themselves, who is this hysterical, crazy person? As I stop them, mind, hand don't function, I can't even open the window. My cousin thinks this is all happening too slow. She decides to open the door where the baby is. But you know, still stuck by umbilical cord, so we could have yanked him back, you know. But then they give us directions. They say, okay, you go straight. But the policeman is not understanding what's happening in this moment until he decided to look in the car. Looks in and is like, oh, you drive straight, you don't stop. You pass every traffic light, you turn straight, you are allowed to go by the emergency section. Today, you're allowed to go in the emergency section. Don't explain, just go to the emergency section. Excited, I go, drive, I see the ambulance coming, I was like, that's my sign. As I get there, the security guard closes the boom gate and he's asking me, lady, why do you want to go here? I was like, look in the back. He looks through the window, he's like, oh, okay. Opens the boom gate, driving to the emergency section. And when we get there, the nurses and the doctors are there, all ready to respond to an emergency. So they get to the back seat, get out of the front seat, and all hysterical, trying to explain this is what's happening. They all respond, wipe the baby nicely, cut the umbilical cord, get my sister all nicely wrapped up and into the hospital. And now they gave her the beautiful baby boy who is my nephew. The part of the story that is a bit transition is she doesn't know that she was pregnant. She doesn't believe that she was pregnant. When my doctor at the clinic told her she's pregnant, and I got there and I said, dude, you're pregnant. She says, who's pregnant? I'm not pregnant. Do you see someone pregnant? All the way through to the hospital when they gave her the baby, she didn't believe she was pregnant. So holding the baby, sitting on a wheelchair like this, and the nurse keeps on putting her hand up to hold the baby. And then she gets to the ward, and then she says, I don't want it. I'm like, you don't want it? She's like, I don't want it. I'm like, what is it? You don't want him. She's like, I don't want it. So she had no connection to this life. She had no connection to this baby, and she was just divorced from the situation. And in that moment, having had those thoughts of being a mother at 9 years, when she went to varsity, I was celebrating, I was like, freedom! And now, I have to start this journey all over again. I immediately said to myself as well, sorry, I don't want him. In that moment, I called my aunt, explained what was happening, that we have this young man, and without a bat of an eye, my aunt said, I will take him. We spent the day in hospital. So in South Africa, or I think anywhere in the world, when you have a baby, you have to plan, you have to go to hospital, you have to have a bed. So she didn't have a bed. Surprise. So she was discharged on the same day, and we had to go home on the same day. And then I had to take this young man, sleep with this young man, because I had fear in myself that if she slept with him, she would suffocate the baby and then say the baby died in the night. So I took it upon myself to keep the baby alive until my aunt came to fetch the baby. And on the first night, I slept with him. He made these humming sounds and the whole night. And the whole night I stayed up next to him, being conscious of not rolling over him just in case I roll over at night and sleep on him and he dies. So I was mega conscious. And then a week later, I had developed an amazing bond to this young man that I couldn't give him away. So at the end of the week, I couldn't give him away. I decided to take him in as mine. So we went to register him at the Home Affairs. I named him after my mother, Gwanda. So his name is Gwanda, the most humble, most exciting, full of energy boy you'll ever meet in this life. So fast forward 5 years later, when I moved to Germany, I had the pleasure of coming with him, but there were some complications with my sister and he couldn't stay. So last year, beginning of this year, I had to take him back to South Africa, and it was the most heartbreaking experience of my life. So after 5 years taking care of this boy, I had to separate. I felt like in this moment, I had to cut the umbilical cord to something I had formed such a bond with. Yeah, so I took him home last year, and now he's staying with my aunt, but still so full of energy, still so thriving. And he calls me each time and he's like, so Lala, when are you fetching me? I need to ride the Straßenbahn. What do you call it? U-Bahn, Straßenbahn. There's none of that here. We're always in the car, so I want to ride the Straßenbahn and things. Like, I'm going to come and get you. I'm going to come and get you. So with my story today that I entitled Plötzlich Mama, I would like to say, with journeys that you face in life, they might seem like mountains. They might seem like hurdles. There are always peaks and troughs. But when you've climbed that mountain and you're at the peak and you're looking at the beautiful Aussicht, the beautiful results of the hard work that you've put in there, all the reward lies in what is right in front of you in that moment. So with that, thank you.